A difference a week makes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Miami Total Football Radio, the show. As you can see and as you will hear, I am Franco Panizo, your usual co-host here on this lovely Inter-Miami focused podcast, the bilingual podcast. Jose Armando Rodriguez joining me in the house today, our beloved Cinco, our beloved Island Jose with a Henley shirt today. Changing it up, a little more fashionable from Jose. No more of those like island summer shirts, even though summer is beginning, my friend.
Yes.
I, on the other hand, normally, I don't think I've ever rocked a jersey in my Miami Total Football Radio show history appearances, but today is different. Today we've got La Blanquirroja on, we've got Peru's jersey on ahead of tomorrow's big World Cup qualifier against Colombia. I don't expect.
It's a big one.
Yeah, but I don't expect any. Listen, I was in Colombia last time Peru played Colombia, and Peru won como nunca. They won like they never do. I don't and that was with a younger team, a better team, against a different Colombia. This is a better Colombia. This is a worse and older Peru. And even in the game, 3 years ago, January of 2022, it took un milagro. It took a miracle based on what happened on the field. A lot of saves, a last minute goal or a late goal. It was a miracle.
Is it in Colombia tomorrow?
It's in Colombia, so I don't expect Peru to pull it off twice with an older team.
And it is a must-win, right? I mean, a draw wouldn't do much for Peru.
It's pretty much. I mean, quizás me dicen hombre de poca fe, man of little faith, but I'm wearing it in solidarity, in support. But I have a hard time seeing it. So
you do have another one for tomorrow, right? Because tomorrow is the day you should be wearing it.
Yeah, I have many Peru jerseys, Jose. I don't know about you. Maybe you only have one Honduras jersey, but I've got many. I've actually got 2 new ones on the way. This is the older Marathon, which is an Ecuadorian brand, by the way. Anyway, Jose, it's been a bit since we've had you on. How are you?
Really?
Yes.
Like a couple of weeks, maybe. No. But I'm good. I'm good. I can't wait for the Club World Cup, really. That's all I'm thinking about right now. I like the World Cup qualifiers. I'll be watching. I watched a little bit of Paraguay, Dieguito Gomez this afternoon. They won, so good for them. Good for Diego. But yeah, you know what? I'm not only excited about the Club World Cup, but I'm also excited about the Gold Cup. I mean, that's like our tournament here in CONCACAF, and even though it's happening at the same time, I still have hope for Honduras to win the Gold Cup at some point.
Oh, por favor, Jose.
The last time they made it to the final, let alone just make it to the final, was 1991. So I was 6 years old by then. So I can't wait for the Gold Cup as well.
So you were born in 85?
85, yes.
So you are 3
I'll be 40 this year.
Ooh, big birthday. Ooh, Eduardo Solano, nuestro amigo Eduardo Solano, fellow Honduran, fellow Catracho. Abrazos, saludos. A big hug to my good friend and colleague Eduardo up in New York City. He is Honduran, and he says in the comment section, with his first ever comment on Miami Total Football Radio, the show, never. Imposible is his follow-up comment. So there you go, Jose.
For Honduras to win the Gold Cup, yeah, it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very
impossible, tough. Never.
But the dream is alive until we drop the first game against Canada in Vancouver. By the way, that's a horrible schedule. Honduras. How is that even fair for Honduras to travel to Vancouver for that game, for the first game of the tournament? But this is not a Gold Cup related show, so. And it won't be in any way, shape, or form because David Ruiz and Fafa Picot are not going to the Gold Cup. So
they are not going to the Gold Cup. Correct. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. Let's really quickly talk about
Columbus.
The news. No, the news going on right now. Lionel Messi and Argentina right now, they have a World Cup qualifier as we speak. And Messi, Jose, give us the update. Is he starting?
He's not.
Is he on the bench? What's going on with Messi 32 minutes into the first half?
He is on the bench. And again, this is based on reports from Argentina. There were rumors about Lionel Scaloni and Lionel Messi having a meeting before one of the training sessions. I think it was yesterday. There was some footage of it as well. And apparently, that was the moment where Lionel Scaloni expressed to Lionel Messi the fact that he needs to slow down a little bit and maybe take it slow with the Club World Cup coming up. It's going to be a tight schedule for Messi, not only, playing matches, but also traveling. So they ended up making the decision that Messi shouldn't start against Chile. Last time I checked, they were already winning.
They are winning 1-0.
Yeah.
The news is, as you took a while to get to it, but Lionel Messi, you buried the lead there, Jose. Lionel Messi not starting for Argentina in the World Cup qualifier in Chile. He's on the bench wearing the number 10, but Argentina is up 1-0 in the 33rd minute. Goal from Julian Alvarez.
It is definitely something to think about because I'll let you know what my opinion is and we'll see if you share it with me. I feel like, the coaching staff for Argentina, they made an assessment of how Messi was looking at the moment, maybe analytics, I don't know based on what, or maybe just, the sense of knowing him for so long. And if he doesn't start, it leads me to believe that they don't feel comfortable with him playing 90 minutes in both matches. So if things go well for the rest of the night and they win the game, I would say he starts in the next game. But it is concerning and it is something to think about that, the coaching staff for Argentina was not comfortable with him playing both matches.
Qué alarmista. Such an alarmist. I disagree with you. I would say this.
Okay, fine. That's good.
I'm going to take what I think. Maybe you disagree. You can title it whatever you want, as can the listeners or the viewers. I think it's more of just a realistic example of where Messi is. I mean, he's about to be turned 38 this month, if I'm not mistaken. He's not a kid anymore, man. He doesn't have the energy and the wheels and maybe the ability to consistently compete at that intensity anymore. Not at least maybe not as a starter, not regularly. So I think this is just obviously if Messi's healthy, which as far as we know he is, right? He always starts, right? He's always in the starting lineup for Argentina if he's healthy. Well, he's healthy and he's not starting. I mean, to me, that's a sign of just father time, man. It's just the beginning signs of the end for Messi, right? His role starts to diminish, his minutes start to decrease. It's normal. That's normal. Now, I'm not saying he's retiring tomorrow before someone comes in here and says something like that. But I think it's just the beginning of the end of his time with Argentina because, again, he's 38 years old. Sean Callahan agrees with me, says Messi's going to be a super sub for the next World Cup. He can't do 90 minutes at club and country. Eduardo Solano says transition time. I agree. I think it's just a matter of that, more so to do with anything that's overly concerning. I think it's just a matter of where he's at this point in his storied and successful career.
Yeah, but that's that's thinking about his future, and we all know what his future is going to look like. I mean, he's not going to play for 5 more years. It's
correct.
That's just a reality. So it is concerning for Inter Miami because that means you have a player that you're not demanding from him to play an entire tournament with Argentina right now and play another tournament with Inter Miami right after. Would you think if Argentina needed to win both of these matches, he would play?
Yes.
I think he'll play.
Yes.
Right. So, you're at that point that you really, really need to take care of him. So I'm wondering if Inter Miami is doing that with him. Because there were quite a few scenarios going all the way back to preseason where Inter Miami should have taken much better care of him. There were some of the games, I can't remember the Sporting San Miguelito game in Panama. That's a game that he shouldn't have played. The Orlando City game, that's another game that he shouldn't have played. If you want to pick one of those two, the Orlando City, definitely he shouldn't have played.
Jose.
And there were some other games during the regular season where he keeps playing and he shouldn't.
Jose, but let's be honest here. Let's be real. Look, la casa, no, la selección es su casa, right? The national team is his home. But at Inter Miami, the dynamics are a lot different. I mean, he pretty much can call the shots on how much he plays, when he plays, all that good stuff.
Right. Which leads to my point. They're not taking care of him because Mascherano is not able to do what Scaloni did yesterday. Mascherano can't, as much as they're friends, he can't go to Messi and tell him not to play because if he wants to play, he'll play.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a completely different dynamic. Not enough power in South Florida to use against Messi. What are you drinking? Is that iced tea?
Whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey, por favor. You don't drink. Although you look spiffy, man. You look like you're ready for a night on the town in South Beach or in Brickell, downtown Miami, maybe Wynwood. You look ready to go out. So maybe
no, Wynwood. I don't usually go to Wynwood. I'll go to Wynwood tomorrow because our dear friend Fernando Petrocelli,
you're gonna go watch Venezuela?
He invited us to the Venezuela Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be going back to Wynwood. Actually, you know what? The last time that I went to Wynwood was for the
me.
Yes, there you go. So I usually go to Wynwood twice a year. Well, tomorrow that will do it.
Interesting. Well, that was last year.
I know you love Wynwood. It was last year?
Yeah, late last year.
Ooh.
Because I flew I flew to Peru the next day, I think.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That's true.
Anyway, let's get focused on some Inter Miami matters, Jose. And I know it's not what you want to talk about. I know for you it's old news, periódico de ayer, anteayer.
Very boring. Columbus. Are you going all the way back?
No.
Even further back?
We're not going to do it like game by game analysis and a whole recap. That's not, but we do need to cover from the last point we were on the pod. And the last time we were on the pod, the title was called Messi in Crisis because Inter Miami was in a bad way. Well, since that episode, a lot has happened. There's been a change in momentum, a positive shift in momentum for Inter Miami, because in a week in which they had, or in a stretch of 8 days where they had 3 games, including 2 at home, they picked up 7 out of 9 points, which is a good haul, especially for a team that was golpeado anímicamente, that was hurting and reeling emotionally. They tied the Philadelphia Union on the road in the first game with a very big comeback effort, which was key. We'll talk about that. They then smash the last place, or the Eastern Conference last place team, CF Montreal, a few days later. Then 3 days later after that, they are still at home and they thoroughly outplay the Columbus Crew. So
this is the most MLS thing that we would ever do in a podcast. This is the most MLS thing that we would ever do.
Can I finish?
Go ahead, finish. Let's talk about Montreal.
No. Because we're going to give our assessment, you and I, right, about where the team stands. But in general, Jose, the outlook, at least right now, at least for the team inward, is more positive than it was prior to that week. Whether we agree that, that what we saw is promising or a sign of things that are improving. I mean, I don't know where you stand on that fully. I know you like what you saw in the last game against Columbus, especially from Messi. I'll let you, share your thoughts on that. But it is a different moment for Inter Miami as they head into the Club World Cup. Before, it was very gloomy, very gray. Right now, at least there's some positivity within the locker room, within the environment and the atmosphere on the team. Now, does that mean that they're going to go to the Club World Cup and kill it? Probably not, right, Jose? Probably not.
No.
But at least they go into it in a little bit better shape emotionally. So again, we're not going to analyze the 3 games. We're not going to do that. But I want your overall assessment and takeaways from that stretch of 3 matches, which was, by the way, a 3-3 draw away to the Philadelphia Union on May 24th. 4 days later, a 4-2 victory over CF Montreal that was more lopsided than that scoreline indicates. And then they took care of business by throttling mauling the Columbus Crew 5-1 on May 31st before going off to international duty, this international break before the start of the Club World Cup. So, Jose, Cinco Island, Jose, give me your thoughts, your takeaways on that stretch of 3 games that was largely successful for Inter Miami.
Well, I think they did settle down a little bit, and that's basically it. I mean, they were in a pretty bad stretch, and then they managed to. I think the key, and I think everybody agrees with this. The key game within that stretch was Philly. Getting that late goal from Telasco Segovia, that was big. That was big right there. Montreal, I mean, look, Copa de Medios next week is going to be. I mean, we can put a team together and win against Montreal.
You sound like Alonso. You sound like
They
thank you for your time.
They are not good. They are not good, and they were not good in
We
that
cannot
game.
beat them. Stop.
So there's not a lot of value into that. But the next match against Columbus, then yeah, they do get a lot of credit for that one. And I think I told you this like after the game. It is a shame for Javier Mascherano and Inter Miami that they didn't get to play right away in the Club World Cup, because they really needed to play this weekend for that game to really have an impact. I think they are calmer now. They have been able to relax a little bit. They release some of the pressure. But in terms of the level of play, I don't think it carries over to Al Ali on the 14th next week. I just don't see it. I mean, it's too big a break. There's also a level of um, I wonder, at least, I don't know if you do, but I wonder how Messi's going to come back. It's going to be a quick turnaround for him. So there's so many things. Playing at Hard Rock, I just don't think it doesn't carry anymore. For me, that game against Columbus, it could have been easily 3 months ago, and it would have the same impact on the Club World Cup.
So I will say this. They were down, what was it? 2-0 at halftime in that game against the Philadelphia Union, and they were getting outplayed by wide margins, by large margins. Philadelphia brought intensity. They would make simple passes, but it was very effective against Inter Miami. They were physically a machine, right? The way that they pressed, the way they moved. Inter Miami, it didn't look good after the first half. It looked like it was going to be more of the same. But in that second half, you saw that comeback effort. You saw that resilience, that fight, the heart. It wasn't necessarily beautiful football, but they showed determination and resilience and character, actitud. They responded, and they got goals from Tadeo Allende, Messi off a free kick, which, I mean, you and I both agree. And, I know the Messi fans are going to come in and say, oh, we're haters or whatever they call it. But, I mean, gol de arquero. Like, the goalkeeper makes a bad mistake on the goal. All the same, Messi's goal gives Inter Miami life there in the 87th minute, and Telasco Segovia, practically with the final kick of the game, ties it with the shot from outside the 18, which, again, helped Inter Miami emotionally start believing a little bit more again. Then they go and beat a very poor Montreal team, and then they go and take care of business against the Columbus team that isn't in the best way. They had not won in 5 matches going into the match against Inter Miami. They lose 5-1. So, Plus is over there fiddling with his phone.
I just asked Andrea to lower the AC a little bit. That was it.
Are you see? It's that shirt, man. It's that shirt.
Yeah.
So look, I agree with you that I think it helps, but I don't think that there's a whole lot of major conclusions to take away other than the team has some more belief and there's a little bit more of a positive environment. I don't think, oh my goodness, because they played so well against Columbus that means that they're back, that now in Major League Soccer, when they get back to league play, that they're going to be this unstoppable machine again. I think, you still see a lot of the similar errors. There's still set piece goals. The attack is still very, very much reliant on Lionel Messi. I mean, in this stretch, what did he have? He scored 1 goal against Philadelphia on the free kick. He scores 2 against
Montreal.
Montreal,
Yes.
and then against Columbus, he scores another 2. So he has
Mhm.
5 goals in 3 games, which, listen, I think that's one of maybe the takeaways from this, which it's pretty obvious, but I think it underlines it again, because when Inter Miami doesn't do well, it's when Messi doesn't do well. When Messi appears on the score sheet and Messi's involved,
there are games that Messi didn't play. I mean, it's so tricky to judge Messi because
when is the last time that Messi scored in a game and then they didn't win?
No, I wasn't going that route actually. I was going the other route in which, sometimes he plays at an okay level, like for everybody else. Not at his highest, but the team still doesn't perform. There are situations where Messi creates opportunities for his teammates and they don't finish. So I wouldn't say like every time he plays well they win. I would say sometimes he plays at an okay level, good level, and yet still they don't manage to get results. That was my point. But when usually he plays at the highest level, then he's good.
I think it's when he plays well, the team does well, and when he doesn't play well, the team doesn't do well. It's hard for Inter Miami to win if Messi's not playing well. It's just hard. It's just they don't have a squad or a roster that can consistently win games if he's not either dishing out assists or scoring goals. Now, obviously, you could say,
yeah, they definitely need it.
Teammates aren't scoring, or they don't finish chances. If Messi's not on the score sheet, it's hard for Inter Miami to win. That's just how this team is built. That's how most MLS teams are built in terms of their DPs. Their DPs have to be involved. If you take the DPs off the teams, they're missing a game or a stretch, it becomes a lot more difficult. So I think the same holds true here. I think the stretch shows it. But anyway, Jose, let's listen. He did. He also got back on the score sheet, which, again, this is why if it's all positive, I'm not going to take away that he scored. He scored 2 goals against Montreal, and then he scored another against Columbus. So that's good. Confidence helps him with his confidence. But I don't think when they go back to MLS play or when they go to the Club World Cup that Luis Suarez is going to be, a different type of player than what we've seen just because he scored a few goals against some opposition that's not at their best right now. Inter Miami can only play the opponent it has in front, right? So kudos to Inter Miami for taking care of business, and kudos to David Mascherano for managing the games and getting the results. They scored 12 goals in 3 games. I mean, that's a hell of a yield in terms of attacking output. But there are bigger fish to fry. There's opponents at higher levels. That's what we base and we will judge this Inter Miami team off of. And Philadelphia was probably, listen, I mean, out of the 3 results, Jose, 2 wins at home and a draw. I mean, which of those 3 was the best result for Inter Miami? Was it the 5-1 win against Columbus because it's the most lopsided? Or was it the 3-3 draw? I mean, which of those 3 games is the most, I don't know if I want to say most important. Yeah, fine. The most important out of the 3 would be the draw, right?
Yeah, I would take the draw because I think that was the turning point, within this, stretch of 3 games. Yeah. I think that was the turning point right there.
Well, let's listen to Javier Mascherano. This was a quote from the game against the Philadelphia Union, but it's probably the best quote in the past week and a half to 2 weeks from the Inter Miami head coach. And it pertains to the situation. It's still pertinent.
No, I told to them in the halftime that we are in a situation that is shit, or we are in the shit. And the only way to see the sun is give everything, forget the result. The result is my fault, is my responsibility. They have to play. They have to play. Because football is a game, and we have to play. Play. Don't think about the result. The result is the coach foul, the responsibility of the coach. But we want to have the ball, to move the ball to one side, to the other side, try to play in the opposite side. This is, for me, the way to start again, winning games and in a good dynamic.
So they were in the shit in that first half against the Philadelphia Union. You could say that in general they were in the shit, and Mascherano's getting a lot more comfortable in dropping expletives in his press conferences. Which look, I don't dislike. I don't listen. He's being his
I do.
genuine, of course. He's being his genuine, authentic self. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I know some people don't agree with it. They think it lacks professionalism and whatever. I disagree with that. Look, if it's how he feels it, how he is living the moments, it's fine. A little curse word didn't hurt anybody. That's
so
it. That's all you got.
Al-Ali.
So
I'm interested in Al-Ali.
So that's why moving forward, right? They were in the shit. Now they're slightly out of the shit, but I don't think they're completely out of the shit. They've got a tough task at the Club World Cup.
But how are we going to judge that? How are we going to judge? I mean, this is where, for me, the MLS regular season is so insignificant early on. And with so many tournaments going on this year, I mean, how are we going to judge Inter Miami moving forward? Are we going to deal with this week for the next month and a half? Are we going to take into account the Club World Cup? Are we going to wait for the first 3 or 4 games after the Club World Cup? Are we going to wait for Leagues Cup or after Leagues Cup? I mean, how do we judge this team? Because, like, honestly, they are so far behind from everybody in the Club World Cup that, for me, it would be unfair to judge them based on the Club World Cup. I mean, we're going to criticize them. They're going to get crushed. And, I think there's only one way this Club World Cup has as much weight as the rest of the world would put into it for Inter Miami. And it's only if they crumble, like, in no way, shape, or form that we have seen before. Which means, they end up losing by 4 goals to Al-Ali, 5 goals to Porto, and 5 against Palmeiras. Stuff like that would be crazy. But
why would that be crazy?
That would be a lot. If they don't score a goal and they get scored 14 times in 3 games,
I mean,
that would be tremendously embarrassing.
Is that out of the realm of possibility, Jose?
No. I'm not saying, but I mean, it would be terribly bad for the global brand, which at this point I think it's.
I'm gonna share some information, right, that I've gotten over the last few weeks, and I think the Club World Cup, bigger picture than away from Inter Miami, I think the Club World Cup is going to shine a light on issues that MLS is facing and needs to figure out how to address. And I think the main issue at hand is, what type of league does MLS want to be? Because it's fine for them to come out, relaciones públicas, and say, public relations, say, we want to be one of the best leagues in the world. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you're competitive? Does that just mean you make money? Well, how do you gauge what one of the best leagues in the world is for Major League Soccer? Everything I've got, this is not necessarily new information, but what is happening here, from what I've heard and what I've spoken to some people about, is there are owners in Major League Soccer, Inter Miami's Jose Mas, David Beckham included, that want the league to become a more international style football league. That means you don't have as many of these salary cap restraints. You open things up a little bit more so that teams can spend more, because there are owners that want to spend, that want to be part of the more international business model for a league.
How many owners is the question?
Now, that's the other part. There are other owners in the league that are content with leaving it as is, with leaving it with this paridad, with this parity, where anybody can compete within the league, a very American style, just like maybe in the NBA or the NFL or MLB, or your favorites, the NHL, right? Where it's a very American style league. It's closed. There's salary caps or some type of financial constraints, but that's because they are the top of the food chain in their respective sports. They're not competing by and large internationally with other leagues. Whereas soccer, football is different. And MLS is trying to compete internationally, right? We see it at the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And so this year they got the Vancouver Whitecaps got smashed. Was it 5-0? They got smashed. They got smashed 5-0. If you look at since 2006, only one MLS team has won the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the CONCACAF Champions League, whatever it's been named in that stretch. So on the bigger scale, in the bigger picture, right, in the terms of the overall football landscape, MLS is very, very far from being at the elite levels or the top levels or being one of the best leagues in the world. Because, listen, this is professional sports. The way you judge, by and large, is competition, is proving yourself against other teams. And even just regionally against Mexican teams, MLS can't get it done consistently. They've done it once. You could even chalk that up to being a fluke. The one time that one team just everything fell in their favor, because they haven't even had two teams win it. So MLS is at this impasse where something's got to give. And I think if this Club World Cup goes very badly, MLS has three teams. LAFC beat Club America for that final spot. And you also have the Seattle Sounders. If those three teams do terribly, they get embarrassed, which is what a lot of people are expecting. It sounds like maybe even you included. Then what does MLS do? Does MLS look in the mirror and say, what we're doing is fine? Or do they take a step back and say, you know what, maybe we do need to become not the biggest player in the international game, but we need to take a step towards becoming that by loosening up some of the roster constraints? Because there's been talk about the changing the calendar to be more in line with the European calendar and the transfer windows, because it's clear every year, Jose, that MLS teams start the year in incomplete fashion, right? The rosters are never complete at the start of the season, right? They're still bringing in players at the beginning of the season, even after the regular season has begun. Then they're still eyeing the summer transfer window. The teams are never really built. And so that's where I think this summer is going to really, really maybe push MLS in a direction. What direction will that be? I think it matters on the results.
Here's my opinion about this. I think there's still not enough for the good owners in MLS to turn things around. Because in so many scenarios across the league, MLS teams are like the fourth or fifth branch from a much, much, much wider business in so many other sports. For the owners, it's just another way in which they're trying to find a way to make money, but they don't want to risk it all for MLS. And I think that is a wise decision, because as it stands right now, it feels like MLS is running in circles, and they win a battle every now and then and they celebrate, but they go back to the same. I think it's getting old in MLS to start celebrating attendance. I mean, that should have stopped like 5 years ago. I mean, you break an attendance record and it's a big deal. I think that tells you right there that MLS hasn't been able to take the next step. And that tells me that they are very far away from making the right decisions. Jorge Mas, I think he has the right mindset. Even though he's not a football owner, he might become one. But I think he understands how the business is run elsewhere. But I don't think he'll get enough support as of right now. Like, honestly, I don't see it happening.
So if MLS teams get absolutely embarrassed at this Club World Cup, you don't think there's going to be a little bit more? Hey, listen, that's fine. I'm just asking the question.
No, I mean, Inter Miami plays on the 28th, right? I can't remember who they play against, but I think that's a home game on the 28th, like right after the Club World Cup. Inter Miami gets smashed in the 3 games in the Club World Cup. But they win on the 28th, nothing has happened. Nobody will ever, I mean, there's not a hint about the Club World Cup. We might talk about it here, but within the MLS landscape, if they win in MLS, then it's a success. And that's exactly, I mean, I think in particular Inter Miami explains the entire situation that I'm talking about, because how many times, well, actually 2 times within the Messi era in MLS, we have seen the team struggle in Champions Cup. And what happens? They win an MLS game in the next few weeks, and it's all forgotten. And it's all forgotten. And but they win the MLS, they get to the playoffs, they qualify to the playoffs, they'll win 2 or 3 games in a row, and everybody forgets. That's MLS. So I don't think, things will change.
But that's the point, Jose, is that it's a league built on parity, right? That's why, yes, sure, it's competitive within the league, but now that you're going to be entering international competitions, right? Because this Club World Cup, yeah, it's an experiment, but the idea is the hope is that it will.
But it's every 4 years. Every 4 years. So
you want to? I said papelones every 4 years. You want to go MLS, embarrass yourself every 4 years?
The MLS fans, here's the story. A few years ago, I went to Orlando for actually 2016 for the Copa America Centenario. I got an Uber, and the Uber driver asked me about Copa America Centenario, what it was. He didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And I told him about the tournament. I told him that some of the Orlando City players were actually participating in the tournament. And he was upset that Orlando City players will take time off his team, off Orlando City, to go and compete at the Copa America Centenario. What am I trying to tell you here? That MLS, the MLS fan base only cares about MLS games. So if they struggle at any other tournament, but they win in MLS on Sunday against the Colorado Rapids, they are completely fine. They don't have a problem, because that's the way they have been taught. That's the way usually things works in other sports, right? Because if you're in the NBA, if you're in the NFL, you just talked about it. If you win games in the regular season in those leagues, you're fine, because that is the most important tournament. For MLS teams, any other tournament aside from the league should be important internationally, but it is not. As of right now, it is not. There are so many people that go to MLS games that have no idea what is Leagues Cup, what is Champions Cup.
Absolutely.
Cup. They don't know about the tournaments. They don't know how much it means.
I agree with that.
And if that doesn't change, and they win in MLS, that's it. That's all they need.
So, Jose, it's not about. My point isn't that it's going to be about the general fan in Major League Soccer. I think what it's more about is the perception internationally about where MLS stands. Because if you're getting blown out at the Club World Cup, if your high profile team, Inter Miami, doesn't win a single game, if none of the teams make it out of the group stage, none of the teams are very competitive. I mean, don't you think that at least nudges the thought of maybe they have to do things differently? Or you think they're just going to stay in the very American mindset of,
yes,
you know what, we're just going to keep having a league. I'm not saying they're going to get away with parity altogether, but maybe they open up the purse strings a little bit more to try to be a bigger player on the international scale.
They would do what MLS does, which is they would get another franchise, or they will bring, not a superstar, because I don't think they can get any higher than Messi. They might be a superstar someplace that would be interested in coming to MLS, but they'll get a big name, and then they're going to make it about that big name, and that big name facing Messi, and that's it. That's the way MLS is run. It's not about the sport itself. It's not about competing. It's not about winning against international opponents, except for Mexico, because that's where the money is. Because what they really want is not to win against Real Madrid and Chelsea and Atletico de Madrid, because they know that fan base is out of their reach. But they believe that if they win against Tigres, Monterrey, America, Necaxa, then they can bring the Mexican community to the Leagues Cup, and then maybe they can have them stay for a little longer and watch an MLS game every now and then. That's the business. They want to win against Mexico, and that's why they play a lot against Mexican teams. That's the reality of things. That's it. They can struggle in the Club World Cup as long as they don't end up losing the final against a Mexican team.
So you think, Jose, maybe I'm asking you the same question, but you think, so if they get battered, they don't look competitive, that MLS will just continue as is? There will not be, from a bigger picture, right, of the conversation of, damn, that was embarrassing. We can't continue doing things this way.
I don't see it. Maybe 12 years from now. If
12,
if the third World Cup, Club World Cup comes around and they don't win a game, then maybe after the third World Cup, then they start talking about it. Look, they still have to qualify for the next one, and Cruz Azul just took one of the spots. So, I mean, they might even be fine without participating in the Club World Cup moving forward. There's not a guarantee that the tournament would take place in the United States forever. So I would certainly think that it would be a much, much, much different take on the Club World Cup if, for example, this tournament will be played in Japan. They wouldn't care as much. It would be like, okay, but it's troubling for our teams to get there and come back for the regular season. I mean, you know how it is. It would be different if the tournament wouldn't be played here.
It's going to be interesting to see what comes of this summer. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the results, and then what MLS. Listen, if they get smashed, I mean, the questions are going to get asked to Don Garber in some way, shape, or form at some point, right? He's going to get asked. I don't know if he's going to get grilled but he's going to get asked at some point. You know what?
But he gets away with it, Franco. He gets away with it. He prepares for those type of questions, and he gets away with it. He gets away with it because most of us that work within this business, we have some other stuff to do. So we'll talk to Don Garber. We'll write a report about Don Garber saying we don't agree with Don Garber, but guess what? It's the NBA Finals. So we have to stay aware of the NBA Finals. That's the way this is not like, we're not in a situation, us as media, that we can fully concentrate on putting pressure constantly on MLS. There's not enough outlets that would do that. I mean, ESPN will not run a special on Don Garber making the wrong decisions for MLS. They won't do it. They don't care. So he is never going to feel the pressure. He'll do a presser. He'll be ready for it. And that's it. We'll move on.
I'm going to... Roberto here in the comment section says cheap owners is the problem. Roberto adds, look at Montreal's owner. Don't care if their fans are not happy. Simon, or Simon, I don't know, Simon's two ends, says, respectfully, Franco, nobody thinks the MLS teams will compete. I mean, I agree. I'm not saying the MLS teams are going to compete, but I'm saying if you get smashed 5-0, you get smashed 8-1.
Well, Seattle is in a very tough position.
I think you gotta look in the mirror then. I think you gotta look in the mirror. Look, I think, and I agree with you, Jose, that this is why when you were talking about the Gold Cup, like, and I know it's a source of pride for you because, you're Central American and your team, of course, is Central American. So this is, one of the biggest tournaments or the biggest tournament regionally that it can play. But the whole CONCACAF region, man, for me, I know it's the football we have in our backyard, and we shouldn't look down on the football we have in your backyard, et cetera, but a lot of it, too much of it, and this is, I guess, a bigger problem just in general in football, but too much of CONCACAF is about the money, man. Just wait, like, every Gold Cup is in the United States. Every Gold Cup. Oh, okay, right. They opened it up a little bit now. Great. But most of the games are still played in the United States. Yeah, they're gonna talk about facilities and access and hotels and all this stuff. But the fact that it's always in the U.S., the fact that when MLS teams play in the Leagues Cup, the Mexican teams are always coming to the United States. The fact that right now that Club World Cup qualifier between Club America and LAFC was played in not at a neutral venue. It was played in Los Angeles. And you can say, yes, Club America had a lot of fans and maybe had the home field advantage in LAFC's venue and its LAFC stadium. But guess what? They still have to travel. They still have to get away from home, right? Why doesn't LAFC have to do that as well? Why doesn't LAFC have the
Dollars.
task? Of course, because of money. So I'm very critical of the CONCACAF region. I'm very critical of how things are done here. And I know this is not just a CONCACAF thing, but it's even more, it's even a bigger issue, in my opinion, here. Because the U.S. is involved, and the U.S. obviously moves money, right? The U.S. dollar bills, dollar signs, that currency is big. So it's very alluring, but I think it's also very hindering. All the same, I think this summer is going to be, I won't say pivotal, but I think it's going to lead to some reflecting. I think it's going to lead to some bigger conversations.
Here's where it goes the other way as well. And I think this would be like a typical MLS approach. If for some reason,
some team does well,
something goes well, they try to sell it like we made it. We are right there. We don't need to change anything because guess what? We draw. We all out of all of our matches that everybody thought we would struggle, we didn't get 10 points, but we got 5, and we got 5 against the best teams in the world. And they will go on and on and on and on about that. And you know it. That's what true. They would do. And that's why they would sell. And that's 100%. Why 100%. There are so many people around the world that believe that MLS is magical. They have no problems. Oh, they're a wonderful league. There are so many players from South America, Central America, that believe that if they make it to MLS, they made it to the highest level. They made it to the highest level because they don't know, they don't take a closer look about, the superstars make a lot of money, but there are some other players that they don't make a lot of money. They don't have the big contracts. So, but MLS is responsible for, a win that is this size. They will sell it this size.
Well, let's listen to Javier Mascherano, because after the 5-1 victory over the Columbus Crew, he got asked once again about the Club World Cup. And he's been asked on a number of occasions in recent weeks as we've gotten closer and closer. He's been asked about the Club World Cup on a few occasions, on a number of occasions. The same held true after the 5-1 win over the Columbus Crew. His response was very telling, Jose, because he dug into the Sergio Busquets well of realism. Wasn't as maybe harsh, but in a very diplomatic way, said more or less the same thing, that Inter Miami is not made to compete in this competition, right? So I'm paraphrasing what we're going to hear. So afterwards, for the non-Spanish speakers or the non-Spanish listeners, I've done my job of at least paraphrasing what was said. So let's listen to Mascherano here about the Club World Cup.
No tiene nada que ver. No. El resultado claramente, ganar y ganar de esta manera nos da confianza. Nos demuestra que si somos valientes, si estamos tranquilos, si nos animamos a jugar, podemos jugarle de igual a igual a cualquier equipo, sobre todo en la MLS. Después el Mundial de Clubes es otra historia, ¿no? Los rivales, claramente, tengo que ser realista, son de otro nivel. Inclusive el Al-Ahly, que todo el mundo piensa que es un rival menor, ya les digo que no es un rival menor, ni mucho menos. Pero bueno, vamos a competir a esto, ¿no? A tratar de ser nosotros, y de eso se trata. Al final es un juego, hay que ser valiente, hay que tratar de jugar con nuestras armas y no tener temor a equivocarse. Al final lo peor que te puede pasar es tener temor a equivocarte. Al final de eso se trata el fútbol, no importa si me equivoco, sino es cómo reacciono ante el error y seguir sosteniendo esto. Creo que en estos últimos partidos los chicos lo han entendido, se han sacado un peso de encima, pero bueno, tenemos que seguir, no alcanza con esto, hay que seguir reforzando y que no se nos olvide de acá a 2 semanas.
So Jose, you nod your head. There was actually another quote. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it up here because by the time it does all the back end work, it's going to take forever. But what do you make of his comments there? Kind of, I mean, being realistic, setting expectations that this next competition is a step above where they normally play. That's what he says in the later in the press conference, where he says, this is even a step above CONCACAF Champions Cup. So what do you make of his honest comments?
Yeah, I think that's the word that I was about to use. I think he was honest about it. And, I think there was a misunderstanding when, right after the draw, about the realistic possibilities of Inter Miami in this group, and at that point, I think Inter Miami had a much better team. Right now, they're very limited, and I agree with him that it's going to be tough, and I think it's just getting everybody ready for what's coming. He's obviously a lot calmer because he spoke after a win and a good week, which we already talked about. I think it would have been a different scenario, a little bit more tense or frustrating for him if they didn't have a good result within that stretch of 3 games. So I for me, it's just it's reality. I think we talked about it in the pod a few weeks ago. It's going to be tough for Inter Miami. It's going to be very tough. And at that point, I think, and I don't know how the guys are doing in terms of recovery from injury, but if things don't get better, injury-wise, and I mean, it is really a tough challenge. I still believe Seattle is in a tougher spot because of the opponents, but it's going to be tough, very tough for Inter Miami.
So, I mean, we'll do a proper preview of the first game next week on next week's show before the match on the weekend, after the international break is over, after Peru hopefully picks up 6 points. Arriba Peru. Probably not, but, gotta support. So you think Inter Miami is going to have a bad time? You agree with the realistic and what some would say pessimistic outlook for the Club World Cup?
Yeah, I think they're going to have a tough time. I was listening to a soundbite this afternoon from Noah Allen, El Griego Allen. And the Club World Cup trophy was in the facility. I don't know when, but it was there, and they released a video. And there was like a soundbite from Noah Allen that said, I had the dream of playing at Hard Rock. I always went there for the Miami Dolphin games. And I was like, so that's another element added to this. There are some players that will play in that big stadium maybe for the first time. They carry some of the pressure because technically that is a home game for Inter Miami. It's supposed to be a stadium, full of Inter Miami fans. I think they will struggle because it means so much more to Al Ahly, to Porto, and to Palmeiras. And I think all 3 teams come into the tournament believing that Inter Miami is a powerhouse and that they need to be at their highest level to win that game. And I think that's where, that's because they're not going to face teams that are going to be relaxed knowing that they are better. They are going to face teams that are going to try to impose their will over Inter Miami, and I think they will do it.
Mike V in the comment section, who's usually our resident analogy man, Always has a bunch of good ones in Spanish. Here he comes in English with a more serious. I think this is a more serious tone. I think he's being serious. Usually the jokester in the comment section, but he says Inter Miami is getting to the semis. Bookmark it. I mean, are they just going to get invited to the semis to watch it from stands, or
they could get invited?
But I mean, they're just going to watch it from like a suite, or I mean, there's no other way they're going to make it to the semis, right, Jose? I mean, there's no way.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
I mean, Jose, like in our opinion, right? Because it's just our opinion. I mean, what is the best case? What is the worst case for Inter Miami in this competition?
I think the best case scenario would be a draw against Al Ahly.
No, but overall, bigger picture.
Yes. Worst case scenario would obviously be, let's see. We know, I mean, worst case scenario would be them losing all 3 games, but I think the goal differential makes it worst. So I would say the worst case scenario would be if they concede 10 or more and they don't score. I think that would be the worst.
Papelón.
Right. Yeah. Which
how would we translate papelón in English for those?
I don't know.
Papelón is like
I'm the worst
shit show. A shit show. Like a complete debacle, complete embarrassment, completely outplayed. Doesn't look at all. Look, I mean, it was a different moment, and it was a different team, and it was in preseason. But we saw Inter Miami play some Middle East teams, some top Middle East teams.
They struggled
in preseason last year, and they got blown out.
But David Ruiz shined in one of those.
Anyway,
he's back.
So, I mean, I don't want to say that that's a sign of what's to come, but clearly there's a lot of questions as to how Inter Miami is going to.
I think they're here already, by the way. I think Al Ahly is here already. I think they were the 3rd team to arrive, if I'm not mistaken. If not, they have a game on Sunday at Chase, but if they're not here already, they should be arriving in the next 12 hours or so. But they'll be training at Nova Southeastern.
Mike V had some of that rum that apparently you were drinking, because he says we beat Al Ahly and draw against Palmeiras. Okay. I mean,
if there's a game that they have a chance of winning, it should be Al Ahly. But
Mascherano, even there in that comment, says Al Ahly is not some easy team like some people think they might be. Like,
correct. I did my homework, by the way. I'm terrible with names. But I saw a couple of matches from Al Ahly already. I still have to watch. What
do you think? Give us some feedback.
I think
as a journalist.
I think they are better than Inter Miami. They are much better than Inter Miami. They just play a different
possession,
style.
Are they transition? Are they?
They do a little bit of both, but I think they're mainly transition. And that was concerning to me because that's what hurts Inter Miami.
Yes.
So I think they will be comfortable with giving Inter Miami the ball and just allowing Fede Redondo to lose it in the middle and then score on them. I mean, they're happy with it. So, I mean, this could be another scenario where Inter Miami wins the possession battle, but then they're losing 5-0. So I think they are better than Inter Miami, and they collectively, I think they're much better as well, a little bit stronger.
Would it be? Sorry, Jose. Would it be unfathomable, in your opinion, to see Inter Miami beat them, though? Is it possible?
I would think the only
todo
way...
es posible en el fútbol.
Yes, it's possible. They can win the game.
Football.
But here's the only way that I can see them...
No vamos a vender humo, Jose. But let's realistically... what are the chances Inter Miami could pull it off?
The only way that I can see them winning this game is if they have a tremendously solid effort defensively, which we haven't seen in a while. Tremendous. Just a flawless game defensively.
2 levels up from where they've been defensively.
Right. Okay. And Messi finds a way late. I don't think this... Look, I'll tell you this. I don't think it would be even beneficial to Inter Miami to score early. I would rather have them play. If I'm an Inter Miami fan, I would rather have them play lockdown defense for 60 minutes and then try to find a way in the last half an hour of the game.
So
that would be my approach. And I wouldn't judge. I'm telling you right now, I'm not judging Javier Mascherano if he only plays on one side of the field. I'm not judging him.
There's no way we see Inter Miami try to go 2-2. There's no way.
No. They can't. They can. And they can. Look, I haven't seen Palmeiras. But my feeling is Palmeiras is much, much, much better than Al Ahly.
Mike V says, "Oh shit, I miscounted the groups. Quarterfinals is what I meant." ahorita viene el otro comentario. He's like, "Oh shit again. I miscounted the groups again. I think they only get it out to the round of 16, and so it just progressively get worse."
I thought there was only Inter Miami in the group. So
look, for me, worst case is papelón. We just talked about it. Worst case scenario is they don't win any games. They don't look too competitive. Best case would be, I would like to say that by some way, shape, or form, best case scenario is they make it to the round of 16, and then that's it. That's it for them.
Oh my god,
that's best case.
That would be winning the tournament. If they make it out of the group stage, Mascherano will sign a 10-year contract. Yes. That would be.
Listen.
That would be so unexpected.
When it comes to, I know this is a bit different, right? I know it's a different scenario. But when it comes to World Cups, right, there's always one team, not two, but usually at least one that's surprised. Okay, está bien. I'm not saying it's going to be. But you also can't just say, with 100% certainty that there's no chance that they could get out of the group. You get an unexpected win with some fortunate bounces or a fortunate call or a fluky deflection. It can happen in football. It can happen, Jose. I'm not going to sit here and sell smoke and say that I think Inter Miami makes it out of the group, because if I'm putting my money down right now, if I had to put all the money I had, I would say that they don't make it out of the group stage. But I wouldn't say they had zero chance of making it out. Maybe they have 1% chance, right? You take that 1% chance. It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
All right,
unlikely, but it's not impossible.
I'll give you a 1% just because of Messi.
Look, I do think this. I do want to say this, and we're not going to go too much longer here, but I do think this, and I think we saw it against Columbus. When Inter Miami took the lead and Columbus tried to then have possession of the ball and push numbers forward to try to start, finding the equalizer, that played to Inter Miami's strengths, in my opinion. Because Inter Miami, to me, is at its best when it's in a deeper block and they're playing transition. They're playing attacking transition. Because they have more space to attack. You have more space for Messi to pull off his magic, to find the through balls to the left, to the right, to hit through balls, pases filtrados down the middle. I think that's when Inter Miami's at its best. We can say that they're a possession-based team. And listen, in Major League Soccer, because of the level of opposition, yes, they're going to have the ball more often than not. But we've seen them struggle to break opponents down when they are this possession-based team, right? Like Minnesota carved them open with Inter Miami pushing all the numbers forward and having the ball for large spells, and and Minnesota hit them on the counter and ended up pulling off a goleada, just routed them. Vancouver Whitecaps, similar situation where Inter Miami has the ball, pushes numbers forward, gets exposed at the back, because obviously, again, we know that the money's not invested in the defense. I think Inter Miami's formula for success, for any type of success in this tournament, I think it's going to play to Mascherano's, preferred way, is practically parking the bus and then hitting on the counter with Messi. That is the only way I see this team having success in this competition. And I do think it does play to a strength of theirs. I do firmly believe that.
Problem with that is when they concede. Because then everything changes, because you have to go out there and look for a goal.
But at the beginning of this year, Jose, we saw an Inter Miami that maybe wasn't the best, football wise, right? They were more direct, but it was working for them at the start of the season. It wasn't until they started trying to become more possession based and trying to become more attack minded and all that they started to struggle
But against
a
the
bit.
Sporting Kansas City and
Against New York City FC,
Cavalier,
they were down to 10 men and they still found a way. Again, I'm not saying that they are absolutely. I'm penciling them in for qualification, but the formula could help them based on them being el equipo chico, right? They're el equipo chico in this group.
Let's listen to usually Mascherano. Don't work well though. In World Cups,
Costa Rica when they made it to the semifinals.
Yeah, but Jorge Luis Pinto is he's has master on defense.
Was he a master before that run, or was it that run that made him a master?
He proved he was. We haven't seen that from Mascherano.
Bueno, let's listen to Mascherano. I want to hear that other comment, and it's a longer one, but that'll help us start wrapping things up because we have a couple of players to talk about. But let's listen to Mascherano. It's longer. It's 2 minutes.
El objetivo, tratar de ganar el primer partido, como digo siempre, el próximo. Ese es el objetivo y después iremos al segundo y después iremos al tercero. Digamos, querer acá dar un mensaje de que vamos a hacer esto o lo otro, de nada sirve. Es una competición que, bueno, que como quizás, bueno, acá no pasa con lo que es la Copa de la CONCACAF, porque son eliminatorias directamente, pero digamos una competición donde hay una zona de grupo, donde siempre en una zona de grupo el primer partido suele ser el más importante porque es el que te va mostrando y te va condicionando o no en los otros dos. Pero bueno, sabemos que claramente hay que ser sincero, el nivel que vamos a enfrentar es mucho más alto de lo que hemos enfrentado en CONCACAF y en MLS. Si estamos a la altura o no, lo demostraremos a partir del sábado 14 de junio. Yo creo que este equipo, si estamos juntos, estamos unidos, podemos competir. Podemos competir porque el fútbol es 11 contra 11, adentro de una cancha y con una pelota. Y al final, ahí no es solamente la calidad, sino es el deseo, las ganas que uno tiene de vencer al otro. Y bueno, intentaremos transmitirle eso. Estamos ante un gran desafío y lo intentaremos dar todo para, obviamente, ojalá poder clasificar a la siguiente ronda y también dejar un muy buen papel en lo que es la competición. Somos uno de los 2 o 3, depende de lo que pase esta noche con Los Ángeles, que vamos a representar a esta liga, a este país. Entonces tratar de hacerlo de la mejor manera porque también es un desafío representar a este país.
So a little bit more of the same there, Jose, but again, he emphasizes, I have to be sincere. This is a level up from CONCACAF Champions Cup, is a level up from MLS. He talks about the importance of that first game because that first game essentially is what paints the picture for you in terms of what you have to do the rest of the way to get out of the group. He does mention, potentially the goal would be the nice objective would be to get out of the group, but obviously taking a very realistic approach that it's going to be very, very difficult. We'll talk more next week about tactics and all that stuff as you do more homework on Al-Ali. We can talk about ticket sales. We can talk about attendance because these are big talking points as well going into this tournament. Which I'm going to be honest with you, man. We've talked about it this week in our beloved WhatsApp group. It's not a whole lot of buzz. It's not a whole lot of buzz. If you look in the soccer Twitter channels, yeah, sure, there's talk about it. But generally speaking, here in the city and in the United States, there's just not a big buzz about the Club World Cup.
It's mainly, FIFA advertising. I've gotten on through social media so many ads about influencers that I've never seen talk a word about football. And then all of a sudden they're talking about the Club World Cup, and that's it. That's about it. It's crazy, but then again, we know about it. We've been around for long enough now to understand how things are done here.
I will share. I covered the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. And one thing that I learned from my experience covering that World Cup and talking to people since then, this is over a decade ago at other World Cups, and I imagine this will hold true, especially here this summer at the Club World Cup. World Cups are tournaments of improvisation. Like there's stuff that happens in all aspects, not just on the field, not the days of the game, in general. There's stuff that happens across the board that are unexpected, and you have to improvise and figure it out. You know, like I remember being in Brazil in Manaus, and there was a crazy rainstorm that flooded the streets of Manaus. We were on a bus, you know, that was 2 stories high, but we had to leave. They had to make a split-second decision to leave hours earlier just to make sure we could get there. Today, we were supposed to speak to Gregory, the former Inter Miami player, who's now with Botafogo, which will be competing in this Club World Cup. And the last minute, it was not him. It was a different player. The Club World Cup is going to be all about improvisation across the board. Whoever adapts, I think Jurgen Klinsmann actually touched on this as well. Whoever adapts best will give themselves the best chance to succeed. Jose, one thing that will go against Inter Miami, and this is how we'll wrap up the show, and I think you briefly touched on this, is the state of the roster, right? Emotionally, we talked about they've had an uplift, they've had a positive change in momentum. There's a lot of injured legs on this team. We haven't seen Baltasar Rodriguez, no relation to you,
No.
since he left.
Only when he scores.
We haven't seen him since that San Jose Earthquakes game several weeks back, not even at training. Your boy David Ruiz is working his way back. He looks closer and closer.
He's back.
So he should
100%.
So he's a positive sign or positive development for Inter Miami. Oscar Ustari left the last game with a strain or some muscle tension, or the terminology that Inter Miami likes to use, where they're saying it's not an injury, but it could be an injury. Rocco Rios Novo had to play that game.
Even Fede Redondo, remember?
Fede Redondo, I have it here. I have it here. 7 seconds.
¿Puede salirte sobrecargado o simplemente por
Sí, estoy con una molestia en el disco, pero no es nada grave, con precaución.
Okay.
Sí. Gracias, Fede.
Gracias, Fede.
Fede Redondo very bluntly and honestly and transparently says, yeah, I'm dealing with a small injury, but it's no big deal.
And he didn't play the next game.
He did not play the next game. He's dealing with something. Yannick Bright, we haven't seen since he picked up his injury. Jordi Alba was
I think that is the one that is concerning to me.
We didn't talk about that in the Montreal game. That was one of the big storylines in that game. Was in the first half. There was 3 injuries, 3 different defenders, all 3 defenders.
Well, if you want to call Yannick.
Toto, Jordi.
No, but Toto was... Yes, you're right. Yeah. You're correct, yes. Because Toto was in the second half, I think.
It was Lujan. No, it was Lujan who goes down first.
Oh, correct. Yeah,
Jordi Alba went down second.
Right.
And then Toto Aviles, who came on, had to finish the first half, but clearly he was not feeling great, and he had to come off and be substituted.
But he was available for Sunday, that game.
He was. Jordi Alba was not. And we don't have an exact timetable. We haven't been given it by Inter Miami. They're not doing any media availability this week. Funny enough, it happens. We didn't even talk about Seattle Sounders protest or show of protest against MLS for not giving them a bigger piece of the pie. I've heard from sources that a lot of Inter Miami players are on board with that protest, that they would like a bigger piece of the pie from the Club World Cup money. But not everybody's on board. Not everybody. And you can read into that, which, like, who would not want more money, or who's okay with not getting more money? Inter Miami, I asked for comment over the weekend, didn't get a response. I asked again on Monday, didn't get a response. So clearly they're trying to avoid the topic. But anyway, Jose, you touched on Jordi Alba. We'll wrap up with that. Could we even see William Yarborough in goal, Jose? Because Ustadi, I mean, we were told he's not injured, but we get told a lot of things about health and doesn't always hold true.
Well,
William Yarrow, sorry, Jose, sorry. Because since the last show, Inter Miami signed another goalkeeper, William Yarborough, should be the number 2. He hasn't yet dressed for Inter Miami because he's working his way into fitness after not having a team for the last few months. But I imagine by the Club World Cup, he'll be in form, at least available for selection.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one, really, because, I mean, Rocco Rios Novo has been here longer. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of experience. I don't know. I don't know what Mascherano will do. Like, honestly, if I had to guess, I would think he'll play Rocco.
No way. No way. No way. I think that's why they signed Yarborough. I think that was the reason they brought him, is they were like, you know what, we need a veteran. We need somebody who can potentially in a pinch help us at the Club World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, and Rocco didn't have particularly a very good game against Columbus the other day.
Yeah, they played 45 minutes, but I mean,
and it wasn't great.
It wasn't bad. It just was whatever. I mean, he didn't really get tested that much. All right, I think we'll leave it there, Jose. We've got a lot more to dissect and chew on. We'll talk about Jordi Alba next week in more detail because we don't know his availability. Obviously, if he's not around, that's a big loss for Inter Miami. And their aspirations to have a respectable showing. I'm targeting early next week because the game is what? Saturday. We have match day -1 on Friday. We have the Copa de Medios, Inter Miami's now annual media game on Thursday. Jose and I have never played on the same team. I think that's by design. Maybe this year that'll change.
I have information on the rosters, but I will share it early next week.
I love when you're all sly and like, ooh, yes, I have information, but I can't share with you.
I have information on the rosters. I have a good source, very good source.
Simon says where the new goalkeeper came from. Can you type the name of the new goalkeeper? I never heard of him. William Yarborough. I'll type it here in the comment section. He's played in MLS before. He's a Mexican-American, has played for the U.S. men's national team, although only a handful of times. He's a veteran at this point. Not a younger goalkeeper, more experienced, more seasoned, but clearly towards the end of his career. Same vein as Oscar Ustadi. Very close to that. Oscar Ustadi also resigned. It's also news that happened since we last recorded. But again, we'll talk about more of this. I'm going to try to get all 4 of us together. I don't know what Alonso's doing. I don't know if he's in Peru yet. I know he have to travel soon. He's got some stuff going on with his kid as well since summertime. I'm going to try to get him on. I'm going to try to get Akisita on. I think to do the proper Club World Cup preview, we need the 4 of us on for the first time. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see if I can pull it off. By the way, last thing I'm going to say here is this 4-4-2 that you see behind me. If you've been wondering what that means, no, that does not mean Javier Mascherano's preferred formation. I have taken a role writing for 442.com as a North American editor. So you will see some work there from me in the coming weeks and months. Obviously, U.S. focused. My first piece was actually on Lionel Messi and Inter Miami and Messi's best 5 goals to date since he's joined the South Florida side. So take a look at that. But yes, more coverage to come from, a U.S. soccer lens and American soccer angle. That is not I hear Akisita laughing in the background. See, she couldn't be on the show, but she's over there laughing. Unbelievable. You know what? Tarjeta roja para Andrea. Tarjeta roja.
I know, I heard too.
I heard her, yes. Tarjeta roja. Red card for Akisita. See, this is why people are going to say that she doesn't come up. She doesn't show up after wins. She's over there laughing. Unbelievable, Andrea. Unbelievable. All you had to do was not laugh for 30 more seconds and you would have been good. Jose, I'm looking forward to playing you in the media game next week, but let's try to get the pod out early Monday or Tuesday.
I don't know if it's gonna happen, but
why? What do you have? What do you have?
Maybe we should do something from the Copa de Medios, like a live.
I hear Andrea cracking up over there, nonstop. Double red card for Andrea. Retroactive suspension for Andrea. Unbelievable. I'm going to try to figure it out. I'm going to try to get us to get on early next week. We have to have a proper preview for this Club World Cup. We're going to be there on Saturday. And we're also going to talk some junk, I'm sure, talk some shit, because we're in the shit during the media game. So, all right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Jose Armando, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco, for joining us tonight. Interesting episode, different type of episode. But we'll be back next week to do a proper preview of the Club World Cup and that first match, the first and important match against Al Ali. Again, as always, give us a like, a comment, a share, subscribe, hit the little notification bell, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Football Radio. We will talk to you guys again early next week.